In this chapter, we're going to look at bringing in our tire into Unreal and then setting up some materials for it like we would a game project. So in this lesson, let's look at just getting it into Unreal first. So I've gone and opened up our Unreal Engine here, and it's going to open up the project browser. So there's a lot of stuff coming at us really quickly here, but I'm going to select Games. We're going to select a blank template. We don't need any of these, set up templates for us. I'm going to make sure I specify a location for the project and then a project name. So it's going to store it all under a folder at this location. And then the only thing I'm going to change here is I'm going to remove the starter content. It's going to bring in a bunch of textured models and stuff. It's just way more stuff than we're going to need for this video. And once I'm happy with that, we'll go and create. And this might take a little bit to start the project up. That is pretty normal. Sometimes it'll be compiling shaders when we first initialize a project. So if it's taking a little bit longer for your project to load up, don't worry, that is normal. So once our Unreal project loads, hopefully yours looks kind of something similar to this. Again, depending on the version that you're using, it might be a little bit different. But generally you should get a nice blank default level here. And then we're going to have our content browser either down below or over to the right hand side. So the content browser is where we're going to actually bring in the assets from outside of Unreal, and they're all going to be stored here. And this is where we're going to be able to reference them when we drag and drop them into our game world. So I'm going to import that tire model. So if I come into the content browser and I right click, I'm going to import to this folder. And then I'll navigate on over to our tire low because that is our low poly game ready asset. We can open that. And this is going to open up the FBX import dialog, and there's going to be a ton of options here. But there's only a couple that we're really going to want to take a look at. So under the mesh section, there is this advanced tab. Let's go ahead and open that up. And if we scroll on down, there's going to be this combine meshes option. Now, if you recall, right, our model is technically 3 separate objects. So when we import this, it's going to bring in 3 separate meshes, and that's not what we want. We want this to be one cohesive mesh. So we can go and enable that. And once we've got that enabled, let's go on and just import all. And that'll take a second for us to import our tire here. But now we can see that we've got this tire low. If I drag and drop that into our scene, you can see it's ginormous because we didn't really focus on true measurements for our project here. But that's okay. And it's also going to bring in the material that we assigned to this mesh. Now, if you wanted to, you can also go ahead and rename these. So if I select that and I'll just hit F2, I could call this something like SM_tire, SM standing for static mesh. And you can even see Unreal tells you the type of object data that this is. And just prefixing it with something like SM is a pretty standard practice when working in games, just to, at a glance, understand what this actual object is. And like we had seen, I had just gone and dragged and dropped it into our scene. And that's going to be the quickest way to actually get data from our content browser into our 3D world. So short and sweet video, but that's going to be importing assets into Unreal. And in the next lesson, we'll look at how we can utilize the textures from Substance Painter to build a pretty convincing material for this model.